So carbon markets, right. We keep hearing about them as this key tool for climate action, funding projects, reducing emissions. But I often find myself wondering, are they really delivering? Are these credits making a real difference, or is it just complicated finance?
That's definitely the core question people are asking. And it looks like the big players in the system are asking it too. Gold Standard, who are, well, pretty influential in carbon registries.
The ones who sort of vouch for the quality.
Exactly. They've just announced some pretty significant updates to how they actually certify these carbon projects.
Okay, so Gold Standard, they're like the benchmark setters, trying to ensure a credit actually represents, a ton of CO2 reduced or removed.
Precisely. They focus on that environmental integrity piece. And this new announcement details a big step, updating their rules to align projects much more closely with the Paris Agreement.
The big international climate deal.
That's the one. So our mission today is really to unpack these changes. What exactly are they? Why now? And crucially, what does this all mean for the credibility of carbon markets?
Okay, let's start there. The why. Why is Gold Standard doing this now? What's the driver?
Well, their stated goal is clear: boosting environmental integrity and supporting that Paris Agreement alignment. But if you zoom out a bit, the whole carbon market space is facing, well, a lot more scrutiny lately. People are asking tough questions about whether all credits are genuinely additional, reducing emissions beyond business as usual.
Right, so these updates are kind of a response to that, to build more confidence?
It really seems that way. They need buyers to trust the system. Margaret Kim, Gold Standard CEO, she even mentioned the increasing complexity and demands on project developers.
What sort of demands are we talking about?
Well, think about it from the developer's perspective. You've got a solar farm project or maybe reforestation.
Or clean cook stoves, you mentioned those.
Right. They have to prove, really convincingly, that their project is cutting emissions more than would have happened without that carbon finance. That takes sophisticated measurement, lots of data.
And navigating all the rules, I guess.
Exactly. And those rules keep evolving. So Kim's point suggests these updates are maybe trying to give developers clearer guidelines to meet these higher expectations, to really prove their impact.
Okay, makes sense. So what are the actual changes? What new rules are coming? And when do they kick in?
The main requirements kick in January 1st, 2026. So bit of lead time. There's sort of three key pillars.
Okay.
First, something called Methodology Development V1.0. Think of methodologies as the instruction manuals for calculating carbon impact.
The recipe book, like you said earlier.
Yeah, exactly. This update aims to make those recipes, those calculations, more rigorous, more reliable, making sure the numbers behind the credits are solid.
So tightening up the math. Got it. What's pillar number 2?
Second is Additionality Demonstration V1.0. And this one is really critical.
Additionality, the idea that it wouldn't have happened anyway?
Precisely. It's historically been quite tricky to, prove definitively. This new framework is meant to provide a clearer, more standard way to show a project is truly additional, that it goes beyond business as usual, directly helping meet those Paris goals.
That feels like a big deal, addressing a major criticism head on.
It really does. Because, like you said, you can't just fund something that was going to happen regardless. The carbon finance needs to be the reason for the change.
Right. And the third pillar?
The third one is greenhouse gas emissions reduction and sequestration product requirements. Bit of a mouthful, but the key thing here is how it links directly to decisions made at COP29, specifically under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement.
Okay, Article 6 that governs the international carbon market cooperation, right?
Got it. So Gold Standard aligning its own rules with Article 6 shows they're embedding themselves within that global framework. It helps ensure their credits are, recognized and compatible internationally.
Interesting. So they're really trying to sync up with the global policy direction. Now, the announcement also mentioned specific changes for biomass accounting, especially for clean cooking projects. What's happening there?
Yeah, clean cooking is super important. And the science around biomass sustainability, well, it's evolved. Gold Standard is basically incorporating the latest methods and data from the UNFCCC.
The UN climate body?
Yep. And also from the ICVCM, the Integrity Council for the Voluntary Carbon Market.
Okay.
So it's about using the most up-to-date science, making sure those clean cooking investments are genuinely delivering the emissions cuts they claim. Some older methods might have let's say, overestimated the benefits in certain cases.
And drilling down even further, there was that point about FNRB, non-renewable biomass. Sounds technical, but important.
It is quite technical, but yeah, very important. If FNRB basically refers to wood or other biomass that's being harvested faster than it regrows. It's crucial for judging the real climate impact. And the big news here is they're phasing out something called CDM Tool 30. It's been used to assess this FNRB factor.
Phasing it out when?
It can't be used after June 30th, 2025. And any approvals based on it expire by the end of this year, 2025.
Wow, okay, that's quite decisive. Suggests they don't think it's fit for purpose anymore.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. That it might not be the most accurate or robust way to assess that non-renewable aspect anymore.
So if CDM Tool 30 is out, what's in? What are they suggesting instead?
They're pointing towards newer approaches. Things like MOFO tests, that's a model looking at fuel wood resource changes, another one called CDM Tool 33, and significantly, future methods that are designed to align with the Paris Agreement itself.
Okay. So a clear signal towards more, maybe scientifically grounded assessments of biomass sustainability.
Exactly. It's all pointing towards raising the bar on accuracy and rigor.
Right. So pulling this together, these updates seem laser focused on boosting integrity, boosting credibility. What are the broader implications? Who wins from this added value that Margaret Kim mentioned?
Well, the idea of added value should theoretically benefit anyone who wants effective climate action. For the buyers, the companies purchasing credits, it gives them more assurance, hopefully, that their money is funding real impact. And for the project developers doing genuinely high-quality work,
they might get rewarded.
That's the idea. These clearer, tougher standards could mean their higher integrity credits command a higher price. Kim's call for buyers to support higher impact climate action through fair compensation really hints at that.
That these better credits might cost more.
It certainly suggests that. And maybe that's a good thing, a move towards pricing credits based on their actual verified impact rather than just being, the cheapest available.
That makes a lot of sense. Addresses that concern about credits being too cheap to really matter. Now, if someone listening is, deep in this world, a developer, a buyer, how do they get the nitty-gritty details?
Gold Standard's holding a webinar specifically for stakeholders on May 20th, 2025. That sounds like the place to be for the detailed guidance.
Okay, May 20th.
Yeah, and they're encouraging people to register. They also mentioned it's the start of a phased approach to implementation, and importantly, that they'll provide support to help people transition to these new rules.
Good. Support will be needed, I imagine. Just to widen the lens for a second, we've seen other related news recently, haven't we? Didn't France put out something about high integrity credits?
Yes, exactly. France announced a charter just recently, end of April, promoting the use of high integrity, Paris-aligned credits.
Okay.
It really echoes the direction Gold Standard is taking. Shows this isn't happening in a vacuum. There's a growing policy demand for this level of quality.
And wasn't there something about Northern Trust and natural capital credits?
That's right, also end of April. Northern Trust, a big financial player, is getting involved in administering natural capital credits. It just points to the growing sort of institutional infrastructure being built around these environmental markets.
So it feels like the whole ecosystem is maturing, maybe, with a much stronger focus on genuine impact and alignment with global goals like Paris.
That's certainly the trend these updates fit into. A drive towards more verifiable, credible climate action through these market mechanisms.
Okay, so let's try and sum this up. Gold Standard is fundamentally updating its rulebook.
Yep.
To boost credibility, increase impact, and really tie carbon projects much more closely to the Paris Agreement's targets.
Exactly. The key shifts are those new methodologies that stronger focus on proving additionality.
Making sure it wouldn't have happened anyway.
Right. Plus the updated biomass accounting, especially phasing out that older CDM Tool 30 for non-renewable biomass. It's all about moving towards more robust assessment.
And these aren't just minor tweaks. This is pretty significant for anyone touching the carbon market. Buyers, sellers, developers, even just those of us trying to understand climate finance.
Absolutely. It could really shape which projects get funded, how much credits are worth, and ultimately how effective these markets actually are at driving real emissions cuts.
So, maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. How will these moves towards higher integrity actually play out? Will they genuinely strengthen the role of carbon markets in hitting our climate goals? And how critical is this push for transparency and tough certification in building the trust these markets absolutely need to function effectively?
Yeah, it's that balancing act, isn't it, between market efficiency and ensuring real, verifiable environmental benefit. These gold standard updates are definitely a key development to watch in that ongoing story.